What's up, guys? Money Man was fine here, and today I'm here bringing you GBA Season 6, Week 3 Pick'em Crew video.
What's going on, guys? You got Matty Brolick here as well, and these weeks have really been exciting so far, so let's see where we can take it from here, because it's getting pretty tough to pick these games every week.
Yeah, looking at the results from last week, yours truly went 6-2 and is leading everyone, or is tied for leading everyone. No, actually, I am leading everyone with 10-6 with a 2-0 lock of the week overall, which is a tiebreaker for those of you who don't know. So, lock of the week means if you have like the best record in lock of the week, that'll separate you from the people that you're tied with for overall, which is why I'm over the confusion right now. So.
That is true.
Yeah, no one went negative last week, which is good, especially with this season and how competitive it is. It's really hard to pick these matches, and I'm actually kind of surprised I went 6-2 last week. I felt pretty confident about my picks, but yeah, you usually don't see scores that are that good for those weeks. So.
That's true, and like one thing I didn't even look at that's kind of funny is that Dallas Staryu is actually 0-2 for his lock of the weeks, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, he does not shy away from picking tough matches for lock of the weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah, last week he picked John as his lock of the week over George, who's considered one of the best players in the league right now, and definitely risky.
Yeah, that showed some you know what. Like I was really surprised to see that he locked that game the week before. He locked what, like Gubs over Chimpact or something?
I think he locked Gubs.
That's pretty funny.
Might need to rethink his strategy, because he's not doing so well in lock of the weeks right now.
I 100% agree.
Okay. Alright, looking forward to next week, we have our first game, which is the San Diego Chim Chargers versus the Boston Red Sox. I am going to be picking the Chim Chargers this week. They've really been showing me that they're a force to be reckoned with in this league. GG, it's MV. He's really been killing it. Is he the one that's been using Smash Pass?
Yeah, he tried to use it last week.
Yeah, it's a strategy that doesn't normally see a lot of play in the GBA, but he's been using it pretty well so far.
Yeah, absolutely. MV's showing that he's a force to be reckoned with, and his team is pretty good. It's definitely backed up by some really versatile Pokemon that can really surprise a lot of people, and of course he's got the nice Hax core between Togekiss and Jirachi, and he really did use a little bit of hacks to his advantage in the both previous weeks. The first game he had that nice sub Iron Head Jirachi, whereas this past week he had a Thunder Wave Air Slashing Togekiss. So those are viable strategies, regardless of what you guys or what anyone wants to say about them being hack strategies. They are viable because those are those Pokemon special abilities. So with those Pokemon and just an all-around good versatile team with pretty good synergy and everything like that, and just a great coach, they're going to be a force this season. But this match was a little tough to call because I think that Nick has a great team and he's playing well. But for example, like this past week, he only lost to a last turn crit pretty much before he was about to sweep for the victory. But still, I just think that MV is playing very well right now. He's got a great team. He's just an all-around very great player. So I think he's going to pull away with the win once again.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. Yeah, and if you did not want to get flinched by MV, you can just run Inner Focus.
That's true. Just, draft a whole, or, just go in the free waivers and just pick a lot of Inner Focus Pokemon just so when you play MV, you don't have to flinch. That's, it works because if that's what MV's going to do to pick up some wins, then you got to do something to counteract it. So, like I said, he's definitely going to be a force this year, and this is going to be a good game, though. I think that it will be a tough game for MV to win, but he's just on a roll right now, so I want to go with him.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And MV didn't really have the highest rated draft coming into the season, but I think he's proving to everyone that he knows how to use his team and he's comfortable using it.
Exactly, that's the most important thing. You could draft a team of superstars and just not be comfortable with using them, and they don't put in the work that they really should be doing week in and week out. So props to MV on that because, like I had mentioned in past weeks, I do play in the NPL, the National Pokeball League, where MV played in the minors, and his team had a lot of Pokemon that I really wasn't sold on being so great, and he used them to, an amazing a really amazing level. I was really impressed with how he used some of those Pokemon to great success. So he could do some really amazing things with his team, and I'm interested to see how that works out this week and in future weeks to come. So moving on to the next game, we have the New York Metapods versus the Bo Russia Donphan. And this is another very tough one to call because Dan has been on a 2-game losing streak. Not a huge losing streak, but a 2-game hole is not something that you want to start off the season with at all. So it could be tough for him to really dig himself out of this. And maybe he's in a bit of a slump. Maybe he's just losing his confidence. I don't know what it is. But I know Dan, he's a competitor. And, you know, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, just like he did last season with his playoff run. So that's why I'm going to go with Dan over Lars in this one, because Lars did win last week, so he is not 0-2 or anything. But I think when it comes to, you know, both coaches' playing level and teams, I think they're pretty close. So I think that if Dan really comes out and goes crazy to try to get a win this week, I think he can pull it out over Lars.
Yeah, this match is really going to be coming down to team prep, at least in my opinion. This match is going to be won before the match even starts. If Dan preps really well, like really hard, like he has in previous seasons, I don't know how he's prepping now, but I think that if he like steps it up just a little bit more, I think he'll definitely start seeing the wins come into the column for wins, where the wins belong. This one is really just a gut call for me. They're both fantastic players, as you said, and it's really hard to separate one from the other. But I have this feeling that Dan does not want to go 0-3, and he really wants this win. And I think he's just gonna. It's the little things that make a big difference when it comes to matches and just face-offs in general and in real sports and in fights, things like this. Like, it's the little things that add up that complete like a bigger picture. And I think Dan is really going to see that he does not want to go 1-2 and win this match.
Yep, I totally agree. Like you said, this is going to come down to a lot of team prep. Both of these guys are good players on a pretty similar level, but I think just from seeing Dan's game last week, I think that against Envy, I think he prepped pretty well, and he played pretty well also. Like I really think that he came out with a good desire to knock off a great player, someone that he knows to be a great player. I know him and MV have worked together in the past, so he knows how good MV could be, and he really came out and did a pretty good job. So just seeing that, I know that he's like right around the corner from having a pretty good season and getting some wins. So with that being said, I think that he's going to pull it away this week, but who knows, we could only wait and find out.
Yeah, and in the next matchup, we have the San Francisco Giants versus the Pittsburgh Piratas. This is kind of a rivalry game. They were in the same division last year, but they've played a lot over the years. I think this is their 4th meeting in the GBA, which is a lot for some. They're relatively newer teams to the leagues, but they're being more experienced overall. Gio, oh my lord, has Gio been killing it this season. Do you see any reason to not pick Gio this week, Maddie?
No, I was really torn on my lock of the week. I really wanted to pick Gio, I just wasn't sure, but he's just been on fire lately, and his team is amazing to back it up. So if he could keep playing well with that great team, then he's looking good.
Yeah, Gio really dominated last week. It's going to be tough to make him not dominate again. I think Tup has been playing very well. I'm going to continue seeing that play happening going forward, and I think Tup's going to have his weeks. I don't know if this is it. Gio's been playing so well, he's just so hard to stop. I don't think anyone can beat Gio right now. The way he's been playing, the way he's been prepping, it's tough.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like he's just been on a complete roll, a complete tear, and yeah, he definitely seems to just be getting better and better every week, just more confident every week, and that's huge in Pokemon because it's such a mental game that when, like I mentioned before, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So in matches, if things get tough, or week after week, if you have different opponents, ones that may have a good matchup, ones that may just be really good opponents in general, when the going gets tough, if you can get going as well and really get your mind focused on just constantly winning and just stepping up the level, which Gio is doing fantastically, then you'll produce great results. And that's what we see right now out of gym leader Gio, and I think he's going to continue this week by getting a win over Tup, because although Tup has been playing very well. I mean, I believe this is the first time he's gotten back-to-back wins, and they were both pretty convincing ones. So he's doing great right now, but I still think that Gio's just got a ridiculously good team, and he's just stepping up his level every week.
When the going gets tough, the tough gets going.
Oh, I like what you did there.
Yeah, Gio's really been using his entire team. Week 1, he got a sweep with Absol. Last week, he kind of mini-swept with Entei at the end. Like, he's really showing he could use his whole team to beat his opponent, which is really scary.
Yep, I mean, like, every Pokemon should really contribute to its roster. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of just picking multiple experimental picks, maybe 1, 2 at most, but some people will just pick a few just to see how they do, see how, like, they just pick them for fun or see how they could fit the team. But it looks like Gio really picked everything on his team for a specific reason, and that's really showing when all of his Pokemon are really coming together and contributing very well. So I like how his season is going so far, and I think it's going to continue with another win this week for sure. So with all that being said, we will move on to the 4th game this week, which is the San Francisco Arcaniners, coached by George, Septile MC, versus the San Jose Sharpedos, coached by Tom. And just kind of like the last game, is there really much of a reason to pick Tom in this game? I mean, it's, you know, like I always say, I do like his team. I think he has an interesting team, but he definitely needs to play a little bit more offensively and try to attack people from different angles, because the way he's been playing and trying to use some of his Pokemon without reliable recovery, or just Pokemon without great defensive stats all around as, you know, solid defensive checks to certain things, it only works for so long, because once those Pokemon start getting worn down, then his team just starts getting worn down as a whole, and it allows his opponents to find openings. So unless he really starts playing differently with his team, which I do like and I think has some potential, then it's hard to pick him over one of the best players in the format, George, who picked up a very impressive win over the New Orleans Pelipers last week. So I have to go with George for my lock of the week.
Yeah, Tom does have a good team. I think he will adjust to it. It's just going to take a little bit more time. With time, Tom will be getting better, but maybe not this week, because George is one of the best players in the league. It's really hard to beat him. He does not lose often. And when he does, it usually comes down to like a 50-50 play. George always puts himself in a position to win games, and I think this game is actually going to be close. I don't think George is going to dominate. I think Tom's really going to step up his game this week, and he's still going to be underrated as a player, and then maybe the week after he's going to get a win, or maybe the week after that. But I definitely think Tom is on the come up. I liked the way he played week 2 as opposed to week 1. I thought it was a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think that he is underrated, and he is going to get used to his team, but the question is when. You know, you can't let yourself fall into too deep of a hole, because when it comes to making the playoffs in such a tough league, just getting a lot of these early losses, getting just a bunch of early losses is really going to put you in a bad position to come back from that, because, you know, going against so much good competition, it's hard to get consistent wins, especially in a game like Pokemon where luck comes down to be the X factor in a lot of different games. So that's why Tom needs to really step it up as soon as possible, because that team does have potential, and he has potential, but, you know, it's just got to start rearing its head sooner rather than later. So I would not mind to be wrong this week, even though I'd lose the lock of the week, because I do want to see Tom start to step it up. But like I said, I just don't see a reason to really not pick George, because he's just really consistent, and he's on a roll right now. He's doing very, very well. So I'm going to have to go with George.
Yeah, I agree. I picked George this week, and so did everyone else. Definitely going to be interesting. I would not be shocked if Tom won here, but I think this might not be his week, but future weeks he's definitely going to be stringing together some wins. There's still a lot of games left. There's still 10 games left right now. So that's plenty of time to turn your season around.
That is true.
Moving on to the next matchup, we have the Newcastle United versus the Real Maril. The two Europeans facing off this week. This is probably the second hardest match to call this week, in my opinion. I initially had Sam as my pick, but I decided to change it to Miguel because Maddie kind of talked me into it right before we started recording this. He told me that, I'll just let him explain it, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I was really torn with picking this match as well, because if you watch the previous 2 episodes of the Pick'em crew, I picked Sam because I really think he's a great player. I think his team is really solid, and he had a tough match against John the first week, but then last week I definitely thought he had a pretty good shot at beating Fizz, but he lost once again. So maybe he's in a bit of a slump. Maybe he's just not really used to his team and isn't really used to using a lot of those Pokemon. I'm not sure, but Miguel, it seems like he's getting his confidence back. You know, it seems like just by the way he's talking, he knew that he could have beaten MV the first game if he just prepped a little bit better. He knows that his playing skills on par with some of the guys like MV and Chimpact. Even though last week against Chimpact it wasn't a convincing win, well, the reason I say that is because even though he did play perfectly well, his Talonflame got nearly a max roll on Chimpact's Cobra Berry Scolipede, which was designed to lure the Talonflame with a Rock Slide. And had that happen, I think Chimpact would have won the game for sure, because Talonflame was definitely the biggest threat to his team. But either way, he played well, he prepped well, and it seems like he's got his edge back at least a little bit. And when Miguel has his confidence and his head on his shoulders, he's a phenomenal player. He really is great. So because of that, I just kind of had to go with Miguel on this one, even though I feel like Sam really needs this win. He really needs it, or else he's going to go 0-3 with, you know, being kind of a favorite to go pretty far this league, or this year. So, I don't know. I'm not sure who's going to win this one. I wouldn't be surprised to get this one wrong at all, but with Miguel having a little bit of confidence back, I think that's pretty dangerous.
And something Miguel's never really had to have, but he has it now. He kind of has like this fire under him way. He has like this incentive to win now. Not only is he just kind of like kicking ass like he has been in the past, he's so underrated. He does not like his place in the power rankings. He thinks he should be a lot higher. And the only way he can change that is to go out there and prove that he's better than people think he is right now. And just that in itself should be enough to pick one of the best players in the history of the GBA. Miguel is such a good player, such good prep that he normally has, and I think he's going to come out not only better than week 1 and week 2. I think he's going to have a phenomenal showing, and he might actually dominate. I know I said I think this match is a hard one to call, but I think the winner, it's not going to be close. Whoever it is, I don't think this game is going to be close.
Yes, that's definitely interesting, and it's a great point. Not saying that Miguel now has this new ignited fire under him, because it's true. He really, for the first time, is just going against great competition to the point where he could actually fade into the back, and that was never really the case with Miguel, because season 4 he kind of dominated, pretty much dominated. Season 5, even though he didn't seem to be putting as much time and effort into it, and there was better competition, he still was one of the top threats in the league. He just, kind of slipped up towards the end. But yeah, now it's season 6, and the competition has risen even more. And he got off to somewhat of a shaky start. I mean, beating Chimpact was great, but like I said, not the most convincing win. So he's just going to continue to step it up every week because he's got that competitive drive in him. So it's going to be really interesting to see how far he steps it up, and if it'll be enough to beat someone who's really dying to get a win. So this should be an interesting match. Whether it's close or not, I have no idea, because I know these two are just going to go all at it. And yeah, I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, and there goes Dallas Staryu again, picking a lock of the week on a match that's really tough to call.
Oh my god, I just realized that right now. I can't. I think he just tries to find the hardest matches of the week to pick and try to go for a lock. So, credit. I give some props to him, because he is doing pretty decent in his. Actually, no, he's 9-7, not too bad, but still, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, it definitely is.
So with all that, we will segue into the next game, which is the Milwaukee Sawsbucks versus the Utah Jasmine. And, I didn't really know what to do for this match, because I want to pick Battler X. I want to see him come out with a victory after, an 0-2 first 2 weeks. But I don't know. It's just tough, because even though Cooper had a pretty rough week getting, was it 6-0'd by Gio?
Yeah, Cooper did get 6-0.
Yeah, he got 6-0'd, and that's, even though Cooper could be hit or miss sometimes, that's, a really, really rough loss to take. So I know that Battler X has a chance here, but I know Cooper has a lot of potential, and he can do some really great things with his team. So because of that, I just have to pick Utah right here, but this one could go either way in my opinion.
Yeah, this was also a pretty tough one to call. Cooper did just get 6-0'd, but his confidence didn't really seem like it was shaken that much. Like, I don't really think it affected him that much. I think he said he's gotten so many 6-0s in the past that it's about time he got 6-0'd. Something along those lines. I don't know, and I think that's the kind of attitude you need when you're in a league like this. He has that competitive spirit, like he wants to win, but he really, like, kind of comes off as lackadaisical, but it's really not. Like, he's still a good coach, and he puts a lot of effort into him. The only coach that breeds his Pokemon, like, Cooper's probably, like, the ideal coach for the GBA. I think he's going to get this win this week.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I love how he breeds all of his own Pokemon for this type of thing, because it takes a long time. It takes a lot of time and effort to really build those teams, especially if you want to go for things like hidden powers and whatnot. So give him huge props for doing something like that, because just being a GBA coach in general takes up a lot of time. So that is definitely an amazing thing to do, and hopefully it works out for him, because he has just been a successful coach in the GBA for his history here, and I think he's going to continue it with a win this week. But like I said, Battler X, maybe he'll step it up this week. He shows some signs of potential, but then he does make some silly mistakes. Maybe it's just because he's a brand new coach. I don't know, but yeah, I just think that just because Cooper had one bad week isn't going to completely bury him or anything like that. So he'll probably end up walking away with the win, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think Mega Gallade's going to have a good week. Did you see what happened last week? Hypnosis bulk up Mega Gallade.
That was cool.
It's cool, but only person that'll run that set is Cooper.
Exactly.
And, I think he's actually going to try and bring like a more standard Mega Gallade set, and I think he's going to do pretty well with it.
Yep, I can see that.
Moving on to the next match, we have the Philadelphia Scizors versus the Atlanta Haluchas. Oh my god, talk about a tough match to call. Yeah. This is definitely one of them. Fizz last season was such a good coach. I believe he finished with the best record in the entire league going into the playoffs. Obviously didn't really have the best playoff run, but hey, that stuff happens. I chose the Scizors this week because I think it's hard to say. Like, there's not a lot of evidence for why I'm picking this one. I honestly just think that the Scizors are going to win. There's not a lot to it. I think the way he's been playing so far has really convinced me that he's going to be a good coach throughout the way. Fizz is still kind of shaky from the week 1. Good showing last week in week 2. We'll see where his next match goes, and he's really going to set the pace for the rest of his season, I believe. If he gets a win, then I think he'll continue to win throughout the season. And if he loses, well, he might start losing some more games.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. This one was definitely tough to call because Fizz has a really good team, and he has just been a very successful coach in the past, and he did get a really big win last week over Sam, so it is kind of tough to call. The reason I'm going with Chimpact is because if you've watched his week 1 and week 2 games, he really hasn't made any mistakes. He's prepped well and he's played even better. So if you're going to go against the coach who's just going to make, good plays almost 100% of the time, then the chances are that coach is going to end up winning a lot of games, because yes, prep is just if not more important than playing, but he's pretty good at that too. So the only thing that I think might hold him back a little bit this season is his team. I'm not crazy about his team, but I have seen potential in what he could do with his team. He definitely likes those Pokemon, and he knows some really nice tricks to use with those certain Pokemon that he has drafted. But with that being said, with him being comfortable with his Pokemon and his team and just making consistent plays every single week, I do think that Chimpact and the Scizors will come out on top, because if Fizz does end up making some mistakes or make some prepping errors, I think Chimpact will capitalize on those.
Yeah, you haven't really seen Chimpact make a mistake this season. Not a lot of misplays come from him. He's one of those players who makes the nice plays, makes the safe plays, and really, really paying off for him this season so far.
Yep, like I mentioned before, against Miguel, there was a little bit of hacks in that game. I mean, I know his Miguel's Zepstrika crit powered Chimp's Mega Diancie, but I don't think that really mattered too much in the long run. I think the biggest thing was just that the Banded Talonflame got nearly a max roll on the Copaberry Scolipede, because if the Scolipede knocked out Talonflame right there, there was, if you saw the end of the match, if Kingdra didn't get weakened by a Banded Brave Bird, allowing Registeel to just clean it up, then, it looks like Chimpact would have been able to win. And that Scolipede also kind of destroyed Chimp's team, so if he still had that still there, then maybe that thing could have put in a little more work before it went down. So, yeah, I think that Chimp just has been playing really, really well these first 2 weeks, and if he continues doing that, then I think he's going to get a lot of wins, regardless of, what his team is like or even how well he preps, because as long as he preps solidly and not poorly, then I think good playing will carry him.
Yeah, definitely agree with you.
So for the final game of week 3, we have another very tough one to call. Like, this is just, it's getting really, really tough, because every week there are these just ridiculously tough to call matchups that can really go either way. And we have the Tampa Bay Luxrays, coached by Monotui, against the New Orleans Pelipers. And now, the reason this was so tough to call, in my opinion, was because I watched Monotui's game from his own perspective last week, and he is using Gubbs' team, which is a pretty good team, but he mentioned in his commentary that he's not really used to a lot of these Pokemon that Gubbs drafted. So, with that being the case, he's got to get used to these Pokemon. But he played a pretty much flawless game against Tom and won very, very convincingly. So, if he can continue to play and prep like that, I think that he could pull the win from John, because even though John is great and has a very solid team as well, I just think that it looked like Monotui was on a really high level in terms of, his preparation, his foresight, and his overall skill level. So if he could play like that and really get used to these Pokemon, I think he could get a win. But like I said, John is great. John knows how to get wins. He knows how to prep very well, and he's more comfortable with his team, I believe. I mean, I would imagine since he drafted it on his own, he's more comfortable with his own team than Monotui is with Gubbs' team. So I think that's going to be the biggest factor in the game, whether Monotui could really feel comfortable with the Pokemon that he's been given. Because I think if he is, then he'll pull the win. If he's not, even if it's just by a little bit, I think John could pull the win.
Yeah, this is, in my opinion, the hardest match to call this week. I think it's going to come down to team prep and who is the most comfortable with their team. Obviously, Monotui is not as comfortable as John. I could definitely make the case saying that John is the most comfortable with his entire team. He knows what every Pokemon does. He's had a lot of them on his roster before. He's not afraid to use lower tier Pokemon. Like, he knows what to do. He preps really well. Nothing, like, you never really see John bust out like a gimmicky set. It's always a pretty standard set that usually works out pretty well, and I think he's going to be able to do that again. Obviously, he didn't win last week, but he won week 1, and I think he won pretty well in week 1. Week 2, it was a pretty close game. If John maybe brought a different Pokemon, he probably could have gotten the win out from there. He played George tough. I said he would play George tough, and he did. John is one of those people who makes the safer plays. Definitely one of the safest coaches in the league, but it pays off for him. Monotui is still unproven. He only has 1 win in the GBA so far. Obviously, I know it's week 2, but he only played week 1. A lot of these other players have been playing for a long time in this league or in this format. Definitely want to see how this match turns out.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, Mono's lack of experience in the GBA can definitely come to haunt him in this case. And like I mentioned before, just the fact that this is Gubbs' team that he's using could definitely hold him back as well. But I was really impressed watching his live commentary. His insight was just great overall. And if that could carry over to this week, I think he could win. But like you mentioned before, John really did play George tough. And I did notice that George had a better matchup, and George exploited that in the actual battle. He showed that, he had a pretty good matchup against John's team, and his threats that I thought were threats to John's team really were. So, the fact that John still played him so tough despite that definitely shows that John is just going to be a force to be reckoned with. So, certainly would not be surprised if I get this one wrong, but I'm just going to stick with Monotui here because he still has more to prove, and it just looks like he really knows what he's doing out there. So, that's what I'm gonna stick with for this one.
Yeah, and with all that being said, that's going to be wrapping up Pick'em Crew for week 3. go ahead and follow us on Twitter, follow the GBA channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and we would really appreciate a like on this video. We think that we do a really good job on these videos, and I think me and Maddie have a lot of chemistry. Definitely have improved since week 1, and I think this is going to be our first one take of Pick'em Crew all in a row.
That's true. I'm hoping so. Keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, so see you guys next week.
Yeah, definitely.
Peace.
Continue to keep voting as well, because we got a lot of support in the Twitter polls this week. So just continue. Really helps the fan vote come along more and make them more convincing. So we really appreciate that, and we hope that you continue to support these videos with likes and comments and whatnot.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next time.
Later, guys.